Hi everybody, my name is Bobby Balcom. I've been fly fishing for about 20 years now, and I've been to a lot of different places and fly fished a lot of fun places in Montana. I live in Washington State, and there's a lot of available lakes up here to fly fish. It's a lot of fun, and just seems like there's not a lot of guys up here doing it. I don't know why. There's more in Canada than there is here. But I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about the basic tools that you need to get started in fly tying. One of the misconceptions about fly tying is that it's a real expensive sport. You need a lot of money to get involved in it. That's not true. A lot of the stuff you can find very cheaply at garage sales. Some of the stuff is a little bit more money, and some of the stuff you have to pay a little bit more money for. But I'm going to show you actually how to save money and not buy the wrong things like I did in some cases. And hopefully this will be a good chance for you to see what to buy and what to stay away from. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that I bought was this vise here, and actually I didn't buy this. My wife bought it for me in a fly tying kit that had some feathers and some hooks, and this was the basic vise. I'm not quite sure who makes this vise. It's not important. It was my starter vise, and it was a good vise. It served me for about a year or year and a half before I really decided I was getting serious about it. To anybody first getting started in fly tying, there's nothing wrong with this vise. It's a very good vise made out of high-grade aluminum here on the shaft. The jaws are good quality high-grade aluminum there. I upgraded to bigger knobs on the thing, which it did not have when I bought it. So anyway, so this is your basic vise right here. It clamps to the table just like this, and you can turn it to where you need so you can wrap your flies. Pretty cost effective. Don't have to spend a lot of money on that vise. By the way, the vise is probably the most important thing when you're tying flies to have, because it allows you to create better flies. The better vise you have, the better flies you can make. When I decided to step up, I stepped up to this one here. This is a Renzetti, Traveler version. It's not the top of the line. It's a lower, more cost-effective version. This one here runs about, I think I paid about $130 for this. Now that may seem like a lot of money again, but I've had this vise now for, I want to say, going on 16 to 17 years. I had this one when I first started for a couple of years, and I've been tying for about 20 years now. So this one here I bought. I can't see myself ever buying another one. So this is the one that I use. The nice feature about this one over this one is you can see this one, it clamps down, and when you lock it down, you have basically up and down movement here, but you can't turn the fly over. The nice thing about the Renzetti, and I have mine turned around backwards. Let me unscrew this and turn it around. Normally a fly tyer would have his vise set up like this. I turn my vise around like this, I tighten it down, and then I use this clamp to hold it solid to the table. So that's why it's inverted. Nothing wrong with having it like this. It's just, for me, a little bit looser, and I like to have it really secure to the table. Now here's the nice feature about this vise. It spins around like this. So when you're actually tying your fly up, you can, stop, and you can look at the underside of the fly or the top of the fly. You can look at all different sides of the fly. Okay? So the vise is a very important part. This little doohickey right here is for a bar that comes out and comes up, and I don't personally use it. There's a bar that comes out, and then you would, as you're tying your fly, you would hang that over the bar. Again, I don't really use this here. Not very purposeful for me. Other guys might find it really useful. I don't. The reason this vise is shiny, if you ever have seen this vise in the store, It's a dull matte finish. I just chose to go get some high-grade metal polish, and I polished up the aluminum, and it actually shines up really nice. So that's one of the nice features about this. Another nice feature about it is as you turn the fly, your jaws stay at a central point. You can see that my finger really isn't moving up and down that much, and that's good when you're wrapping a fly, because as you have the thread out here, which I will show you in my upcoming videos, you can actually hold the thread here and wrap the fly just like this, and you're not having to follow it up and down with your bobbin here. So that's pretty much the vise. Let's move on from there. The second most important thing to have in your arsenal of tools is a good pair of scissors. Now, I have several different sizes of scissors here. You can see I have big ones. This is for more like cutting deer hair. This one is for cutting very fine hair when you want a very precise cut. This is a good set of scissors here. I don't quite know who makes these. My eyes aren't that good and I can't see, but when you go to the store and you see this pair, you'll know it's exactly like this pair here. These happen to be my mainstay here. These are the ones that I use most often, and so whenever I'm working with a fly, usually I have these in my hand and I'll have my bobbin in my hand. So I'm wrapping my flies just like this. I'm wrapping my flies, and I always have these scissors in my thumb and my middle finger, as you can see right there. I don't know if you can see that. On the thumb and the middle finger, and that's how I grip both of my tools at one time right there. That works really well for me, because when I'm wrapping the fly, I can let the bobbin hang, and it would be hanging normally there, but I'm going to set it down so it's out of the way. And then I can go back with my scissors and make a cut. Boom, right there. My scissors are always right on my fingers, and I can pick that bobbin up and I can go right back to it. So I don't have to set that down, try to fumble with picking up the scissors and then cut it, set that down, pick this one up. So this way, you always have your scissors right there in your hand, and you have the most important thing, your bobbin, right here, wrapping the thread onto the hook so that you can wrap the fur and feathers onto the fly. Okay, so that's pretty much with the scissors. You need a couple of different pairs. You don't have to have them. One pair of scissors can serve your purpose, but it helps to have a few different pairs so that you can do some different things. Okay, let's move on to something else that I was talking about, a bobbin. A bobbin is just as important as the scissors and the vise. Now, this particular bobbin is called a tie-right bobbin. That's TIE-RITE. You can find them online. I've been buying my bobbins. Well, I bought 3 bobbins, and these bobbins were all right around $18. This is another tool that once you buy it once, it never wears out. As long as you take care of your tools and don't abuse them, this will last you literally a lifetime. This is a hardened plastic here. You have the little this little nut here, and what you do is this little nut right here, you loosen it up, and I'll show you how to take this apart here. You loosen that all the way up, okay, and then this comes off, and you have the little washer. Do not lose that washer. It is important because it serves as a pivot point between the plastic and the spool. So you definitely want to have that little neoprene washer in between there. Now, if I take this apart, there is another washer right there. Now I'm going to take the thread out, and I'm going to thread my bobbin. I'm going to show you a really cool method for getting your thread up through this teeny tiny little hole, which I actually have a hard time seeing. So when you get your tie-right bobbin from the store, obviously it's assembled like this. You have no bobbin on it. Okay, so I'm going to take it back apart here. Now I'm going to put the thread on it, and it does matter which way the thread goes, either from this side or this side, and that depends on what hand is your dominant hand. I am dominantly right-handed, so when I grab my bobbin and use it, I'm going to lay it in the palm of my hand. I'm going to grab this little black piece with my thumb and my forefinger, and I'm going to wrap like this. Now, my thread, I always want to come this way, from here over the top, so the thread comes over the top and into the bobbin hole. Now I'm going to show you a nice little trick here for getting your thread in there. And what you do is, they have tools for doing this, and I'm going to pause here a second. So wait, I think I can actually do it. So I paused for a commercial break, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread the bobbin. So you take the very little end piece, don't know if you can see this very well here, but I'm going to thread this end piece up through the hole. I've got my glasses on so I can actually see it now. I'm going to put it in the hole. I'm going to put the very end tip in my mouth, just like this. Take it to the lips and suck on it. And there you have it. That's how easy it is to thread the bobbin. Don't try to force feed it up through there because it just doesn't work. It binds up. Just grab that thing, stick it in your mouth and suck on it, and there you go. You have a threaded bobbin. Okay, enough about the bobbin. Let's talk about some other tools here. Other tools that we have are hair stackers. Now, these are hair stackers, and I will show you in some upcoming videos exactly how to stack some deer hair should you be interested in this video. You actually take a piece of deer hair, grab a hunk of it, cut it off, and then you're going to go from the base and you're going to stick the tips, the very tips of the deer hair, which would normally be up here. You're going to keep it all together and don't let loose of it, and you're going to put it down into the hair stacker so that the tips are facing down and the butts are sticking out. When the tips are down and the butts are sticking out, you tap on this thing, and then all of a sudden you're going to see a bunch of uneven butts up here. But when you lay this thing on its side and pull it out and not moving it a muscle, you will see all of your tips of your deer hair stacked perfectly right here, so that you can pull them out, get them together, lay them on your fly, and tie them up nicely. So that's what this is. This is a hair stacker. This one here is for very fine hair or small hair, and obviously if you're tying steelhead flies, this one is the biggie for really long, maybe spay hackle or deer hair that's really, really long that you're working with. So that's what that is, and they all do the same thing. This one does it as well, but this happens to be just a little fine one. So that's what those are, hair stackers. Let's move on to the next thing. These are called Hackle Pliers, and when you're tying chicken feathers onto the fly, this is what you use. And you can either use this on the base end of the feather, or you can use it on the tip end of the feather. Now, again, if you choose to watch the videos in the later versions, you'll see me actually using these hackle pliers on the feathers and how they are properly used. This is one type. You squeeze them and they open up. And now there's a lot of pressure. You can see my knuckle right here is pretty white. So, I mean, you really have to apply a lot of pressure to get them to spread apart. But boy, once they clamp down on that feather, man, they're tight and they won't go anywhere. Okay, this is another pair of hackle pliers. And I like these because the head swivels where these don't. So this pair here, same principle, and it's got a little green piece of rubber in there that adheres and really holds the hackle good. So you would use this on the hackle, and then the nice thing about it is it swivels. See this? I'm not moving this hand. This thing swivels like this. What that does is it allows you to go around the fly like this so that you don't have to go like this, and it's very cumbersome. This is a better tool. When you're choosing your tools, I would say stay away from these. I only acquired these because they were from garage sales, and I think somebody gave me this one here as a matter of fact, but I actually purchased this one. This one was about $14. It's got a nice little rosewood handle, so you don't have to go with anything that fancy. I just chose to because I like it. Let's talk about some other tools. This pair of needle nose pliers. Now you may say to yourself, what do you have a need for needle nose pliers for? That is because when you're done tying your fly and you pull it out of there, rather than sticking your finger on the hook, you can actually take this pair of pliers and grab that tip of that hook, open up your jaws, and now you can look at the fly with your pliers without sticking your finger, which I have done literally hundreds of times. Okay, so the pliers. Let's go back to the bobbins for a second. This bobbin here is actually an ancient bobbin. You can see the thread here. It actually comes around here, around that thing right there, and goes up through the hole, okay, through this hole right here. So I would stick this thread, if any of you guys have some of your grandfather's fly tying supplies, you might come across something like this, okay? So what you would do is you would put your thread up in there. It's pretty self-explanatory of how to put it in there. You take the thing apart, it's pretty easy to figure out. You would thread your thread right down into this hole here, and then you would again put this tip in your mouth, suck on it, but because it has such a long ways to travel, it requires a good set of lungs. So I don't particularly use this bobbin, I just have it for nostalgic purposes. I like to have it, I like the vintage stuff. Okay, let's talk about another tool. This tool here is called a whip finisher. Now, this is one of the hardest tools to learn how to use, but after you use it a couple times, it's going to become very, very easy. You might have heard the term half hitch. A lot of the old fly tyers, your grandfather or maybe your father and maybe even you might use a half hitch with your finger and go around the hook with in a motion kind of like this. I personally have never mastered that, and I got really good at using this whip finishing tool. This is a simple tool. I think it was about $6. So very cost-effective tool to own. I don't think I would ever buy another one unless you abuse your tools, pull on them, stretch them, whatever. You're never going to have to buy another one other than this one. This one has seen thousands of flies. And what you do is you have your thread on the hook here. And so I'll pull a little bit out here, and I'll kind of try to demonstrate, you know, how to use the tool kind of quickly here. You will see it in other videos, and the thread isn't really staying in there. Okay, well anyway, let's just go to a very quicker version here. So the thread is coming out off of the fly. You're going to hook it over this, and then you're going to go just like this. And the end of the hook is right here in the middle of that triangle, and you're going around that end of the hook, which I will demonstrate in some later videos. If this is confusing to you, don't let it be confusing, because again, this will be, let me get this better over here so you can see it better so we get it isolated. Again, this is the starting point of the whip finisher right there, and you bring it over and it will naturally swivel as you move your hand this way. See how it opens up and closes up? You will have the tip of the hook sticking through that hole. Now you can see the hole, as I turn it, remains open. So I'm actually going around the end of the hook, which I will later on demonstrate in some later videos. So basically that's how the whip finisher tool works. Very important tool here, makes the half hitches easy. Here's another tool. Now, I don't know what this tool, the technical term for it is, but I know that it has a hole. It goes all the way through, and you can see this hole here is smaller than this one here, and I have several different sizes. Whoopsie, got the bobbin in there. Okay, so here's a different size. And what this allows you to do is allows you to, when you have the hackle sticking out at the end of the hook and it's kind of covering up the eye, you use this to slide it over the eye in a fashion kind of like this. You push the hair back, and what that allows you to do is allows you to push the hair back so that you can wrap your thread around the eye of the hook and not get it tangled up in the hair. So this kind of helps push the hair back. Okay, moving right along. Let's talk about another tool. This is a spinning tool for spinning a loop. And what you do is this tool right here allows you to first of all wrap your thread onto the hook. and then you make a loop down here, pinch your fingers together, bring the thread back up, tie it off. Now you have this big loop of thread, and it's secured by the thread that you wrapped over itself, so you have this loop. And what you do is you take this tool and you stick it in the loop, and you hook it on that loop and pull the loop down. Now you have two pieces of thread coming down with it coming over this here. So one down, comes over it, and goes back up to the hook. What you can do is you can make a dubbing loop. It's called a dubbing loop, and what you do with a dubbing loop is between those two pieces of thread, actually before you take it back over, what you do is you pull the thread down, you would grab some dubbing, which could be antron, fur of any type, and you spin it on the thread, right? You spin that on there. Some guys like to use dubbing wax. This happens to be sizes 12 and smaller. So there is actually wax for big hooks and small hooks. What you do with this is, you can see that's been used a bunch of times, you wax the thread down with it, okay? And so you have this piece of thread out here, you wax it down, and then you take the dubbing and you put it on that thread. What the wax does is it makes that dubbing stick to that thread really good, so it's not falling all off over the table. So once you have your dubbing spun onto your one single piece of thread, you then take this tool, and you have your bobbin in your left hand out here, and you come back over. So now you have your bobbin in your right hand, and you're wrapping it up, and you have this dubbing loop, and you have your dubbing on. Then what you do is, and this is very important, guys, in a counterclockwise motion, twist this, and twist it up really tight. Really, really, really tight, which I will show you in the upcoming videos. And what that does is it makes a thread of dubbing, which you can slide down now, turn the tool sideways, and wrap it around here. Now, again, with the swiveling tool and this tool in conjunction, what you can do is you can actually come down, throw your thread over the top, you've already got your dubbing on there, you've already spun it up, and now what you do is you can spin your vise. Instead of going like this, you can actually hold your tool out here and spin it until it gets up to the point where you're up to the bobbin, up to the hook. Then you take your thread, which was already hanging, you tie off that dubbing thread there, and then you can cut it. So you don't actually have to go around. If you choose to, that's what this little dip here is for. That's for making the thread coming down and string. Because if you didn't have this, the thread would just slide up and down this shaft here. So that's why there's a V right there, so that you can keep that thread right in one place as you go around. Dubbing loop tool, again, very important. When you're finishing your fly off, important to have some head cement. I happen to have Backcountry Laboratories Hard as Hull. Isn't that neat? So anyways, so what this is when you've finished your fly off, okay, it's not wanting to open, it gets glued shut sometimes. Anyway, it's like a fingernail polish. When you're putting fingernail polish, there's a little brush in there, and you can't see it now, but when you've finished your fly, you would take the brush, you would dab a little cement on there, and that's what that is. It keeps your thread from ever coming undone. It glues it. The fish can't smell it. You'll hear guys say, well, I don't like to use anything but natural stuff on my flies. Hey, that's fine. I'm not discounting that. I'm not discrediting anybody that wants to go the natural route. I just choose to use this. I've used it on hundreds of flies, and I catch fish very consistently with flies that have this on it. So if you're concerned about smell, all I can say is don't be, because it has never deterred the fish that eat my flies, and I get a lot of them. Let's talk about another tool. Here is a razor blade. Now, you might be wondering, why would I have a razor blade if I can just pull on the thread and break it? What would be the purpose? Here's the purpose. Let's say I got to a point, and I'm to the point of no return, and I got a piece of hackle on there. Oh my gosh, it broke, and now I can't tie that piece back in because it's already at a point where I can't wrap that hackle back in. At that point, and I know I'm past the point of no return, what I'll do is I'll take my razor blade and I'll just say, ah, to heck with it, was only a couple minutes to tie this fly anyway, and I'll take the blade and cut it and cut all the thread off. That way I'm not wasting my hook, and I can start over. So the razor blade. Be careful, guys, it's sharp, it can cut you, obviously, duh, no brainer. Here we go. Head cement. This is a different type of head cement than this kind here. There is flexible head cement. You can use that as well. So there's various different types. If you build models, model cement will suffice just as well. Not quite as good and waterproof as this stuff here, but if you can't afford $4 for this stuff here, model cement works really good. One more thing that I have in my arsenal of tools that's not really related to, oh wait a minute, I got one more here. This here is actually it started as a mustache comb, and I'm not quite sure who developed this, but what this tool does right here, it's a comb, and when you lay deer hair onto your fly and you want to separate that deer hair, or if you're cutting a piece of deer hair off and before you stick it in the fly, or in the hair stacker here, excuse me, you would grab the hair by the tips. So you cut your hair off of the deer hair patch, and you've got a patch here. Now you've got all this fluff and dander down here. What you want to do is you want to grab that hair by the tips here, and you're going to have the butts sticking out with all that dander in there. What this tool does is it goes down into that deer hair and pulls all that dander out, and when it leaves a nice, clean, fresh patch of hair with no dander. That's how you clean your deer hair right there, is with this tool right here. Very important tool. If you're going to spin deer hair, work with deer hair at all, you absolutely have to have this tool because it is necessary. That's how you get the dander out of it. You can pull it out with your fingers or try to fumble around with it. I've tried that. It doesn't work. This is the tool you have to have. So you can't be without this tool. Okay, next tool. Various types of these here that I have. These are collectors, specimen collectors. What I do is I usually carry a few of these with me in my backpack. If the fish are eating a certain kind of bug and I don't know what it is, the first thing I do, if I'm not getting any hits out there on the lake or creek, the first thing I'll do is after 45 minutes, if I've had nothing, and I have, believe me guys, I've had a lot of those days where it was just nothing, you have to figure out what the fish are eating. They don't just eat anything. They're very smart creatures. They know what they want, they know what they like, and they go after it. When they see something that looks like it, they'll go after it. When they see something else, it's a maybe. I've been in situations where they did eat my fly when it didn't resemble anything, but more times than not, if I'm matching the hatch, they're going to eat my fly. In order to know how to match the hatch and to know what the fish are eating, you have to be able to trap the bug that they're eating. So what I like to do is I like to take, and I have several different types, I have test tubes and I have these. And what I do is I turn over rocks in the creek and I'll find little mayfly nymphs down there. I'll collect them, I put them in my jar with some water, try to keep them alive until I can get home. And then when I get home, I know, I write in my journal that on this day, and it's very important to write the day, the month, and the year of what bug you collected. Try to figure out what it is on the internet that you have collected if you don't know. Most likely it's a mayfly of some sort, or possibly a caddis or something of that nature, because the two biggest foods for fish is mayflies and caddisflies. You're going to find those in the creeks and lakes a lot. So I like to keep little specimen collectors so that I can look at the bug, I can note its size, I can note its color, so then I can begin to identify what the fish are eating. So next time I go there, I know that in May on the 20th I collected this bug. It was this big, it was green, and that's what they were eating. These bugs have been in these lakes and creeks for literally millions of years, guys. And so have the fish, and they're not dumb. They know what these bugs are, and they know what they like. So very important to, when you're going out and you're deciding to throw some flies out there, know what the fish are eating. And this is how you do it right here. Okay? That concludes this video on the tools and the basics of what you need. I hope that I've been helpful to you guys to hopefully help you not waste your money on expensive things you don't need. Get the right tools. Get the precise things you need. very cost effectively without spending a lot of money. Those lawyers and bankers out there that don't care, more power to you. Get the rosewood ones, get the gold-plated ones. I'm personally not. I'm just a guy making videos for you guys so that you can learn how to do things for free, where I spent a lot of time and money in research and it cost me a lot. Hopefully I can pass this on to you guys totally for free, and you guys can learn something, because fly fishing is something that I do. It's something that I love, and I want to pass it on to as many people as I possibly can. Thanks for watching.